The film Good News opens in the year 1970, during a tense period in East Asian history marked by ideological division and Cold War rivalry. The story begins at a domestic airport in Japan, where a routine passenger flight prepares to depart from Tokyo for the southern city of Fukuoka. The passengers are a cross-section of ordinary people, business travelers, families, and airline staff, unaware that their journey will soon turn into an international incident. Shortly after takeoff, a group of armed radicals from Japan's Red Army faction stands up, storms the cockpit, and declares that the plane has been hijacked. They announce their intention to fly to Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, which they imagine to be a revolutionary paradise and safe haven for their cause. The hijackers, led by a young militant named Denji, are fervent but inexperienced. Their plan is based on ideology rather than practical skill, and from the moment they take control of the aircraft, it becomes clear they are unprepared for the challenges of navigation, negotiation, or logistics. The pilot and co-pilot, both terrified yet professional, try to keep the passengers calm and maintain communication with ground control while simultaneously placating their captors. On the ground, Japanese air traffic controllers are thrown into chaos. They try to reason with the hijackers through radio, but the radicals are unpredictable, driven by slogans and revolutionary passion more than logic. As the aircraft flies south, fuel levels become an immediate problem. It cannot reach North Korea directly, and bad weather threatens its path. The hijackers demand to continue anyway, and the crew reluctantly complies to avoid violence. Soon, the situation escalates beyond Japan's jurisdiction. The Japanese government scrambles to manage the crisis, with cabinet officials, police, and intelligence agents coordinating a response. Their top priority is to prevent an international embarrassment, but events move faster than bureaucratic decision-making allows. As the plane crosses into Korean airspace, both South Korean and American radar detect it. In Seoul, the South Korean Air Force receives the alert. A young lieutenant named Seo Go-myung is assigned to monitor the situation. Go-myung is eager, capable, and ambitious, a man who sees this emergency as a chance to prove himself and serve his country. At the same time, the country's intelligence agency, led by the calculating director Park Sang-hyun, steps in to assess the potential political fallout. Any involvement with a hijacked Japanese plane could provoke diplomatic complications with both Japan and the United States, not to mention the ever-sensitive relationship with North Korea. Among the people drawn into the operation is a mysterious fixer known only as Nobody. He is an unofficial operative connected to intelligence but working in the shadows, a man whose methods are unorthodox yet effective. He becomes an intermediary figure, neither soldier nor bureaucrat, who quietly manipulates events from behind the scenes. Nobody proposes an audacious plan. Instead of allowing the hijackers to reach Pyongyang, the South Koreans will deceive them into believing they have done so. The plan, at first, sounds absurd. But with limited options, and with time running out as the plane circles in the air low on fuel, the South Korean authorities approve it. Under Nobody's supervision, the team sets up a massive ruse at Seoul's Gimpo Airport. They will disguise the airport as Pyongyang's Mirim airfield. Workers drape North Korean flags, soldiers don borrowed North Korean uniforms, and propaganda banners are hastily erected. Buses and hangars are decorated to complete the illusion. Even the loudspeakers are programmed to play revolutionary anthems. Meanwhile, communication with the hijacked aircraft continues. Go-myung maintains contact with the pilot, who subtly cooperates with the South Korean plan. The pilot informs the hijackers that, due to fuel shortage, they must land at a North Korean base, in reality, Gimpo. The hijackers, believing the radio messages and visual signals, agree to descend. The landing sequence is tense, the plane approaches under armed threat, the passengers silently praying, the crew pretending confidence. When it finally touches down, cheers erupt in the cabin, the hijackers convinced they have reached sanctuary. Upon arrival, the deception deepens. As the doors open, a delegation of North Korean officials, actually South Korean actors in uniform, greets the hijackers with rehearsed enthusiasm. Cameras roll, soldiers salute, and the hijackers lower their guard slightly, relieved. They deliver speeches to what they think are North Korean authorities, proclaiming solidarity and revolutionary triumph. Yet cracks in the illusion soon appear. One of the hijackers notices unfamiliar signage in the hangar, another recognizes that the airfield layout differs from photos they had seen. Suspicion grows, and tension rises once again. Inside the command center, Go Myung, nobody, and Director Park watch nervously through surveillance feeds. The longer the hijackers remain unconvinced, the greater the risk that they will realize the truth, detonate explosives, or resume hostilities. The Japanese government, informed of the ruse, debates whether to publicize or deny South Korea's involvement. Diplomatic cables fly between Tokyo, Seoul, and Washington. The Americans insist on containment and secrecy, fearing escalation between the Koreas. The situation deteriorates when one of the hijackers accidentally wounds himself during a scuffle. Blood, panic, and shouts echo through the aircraft cabin. Denji, increasingly unstable, demands medical help and threatens to kill hostages if his comrade dies. The South Koreans, still pretending to be North Koreans, arrange for a Pyongyang doctor to board the plane, actually a South Korean physician in disguise. The doctor treats the injured man, buying precious time. But Denji's paranoia grows, he begins to suspect betrayal. At this critical point, Go Myung takes a personal risk. Against orders, he volunteers to establish direct radio contact with Denji, pretending to be a North Korean air authority. His calm voice and knowledge of revolutionary rhetoric help ease the tension for a moment. But Denji demands proof, he wants to speak to Pyongyang's Central Command. The deception begins to crumble. The South Korean team, desperate to maintain the illusion, scrambles to fabricate responses, feeding pre-recorded North Korean radio chatter through the line. For a few minutes it works. Then static interrupts, exposing inconsistencies. Denji's fury reignites. Now convinced they have been deceived, the hijackers arm an improvised bomb. They demand a new aircraft to take them to the real Pyongyang. The South Koreans, still reluctant to admit the truth, agree to prepare another plane. In the meantime, they secretly plan to end the standoff before the explosives can detonate. The Japanese Deputy Minister of Transport, stationed in Seoul to coordinate with the South Koreans, offers a shocking solution. He volunteers himself as a hostage exchange, reasoning that his presence might convince the hijackers to release the passengers. The gesture is both political and personal, an act of atonement for the government's failure to prevent the crisis. The exchange takes place on the tarmac under intense tension. The deputy minister boards the plane, calm and dignified. His courage impresses even the hijackers. He pleads with Denji to release the civilians, emphasizing that continuing violence will destroy their cause. Denji hesitates. He agrees to spare the passengers but insists on being flown elsewhere with his remaining comrades. The authorities allow the plane to take off again, a calculated risk. Under escort and covert control, it heads north. But rather than reaching Pyongyang, it lands at an airfield near the demilitarized zone, where the hijackers are quietly apprehended. Go Myung's superiors praise him privately but offer no recognition. The only person who acknowledges his contribution is Nobody, who meets him briefly before disappearing once again into anonymity. Nobody, the fixer, receives a quiet reward, an official identity card granting him legal status in South Korea, a token gesture for his invisible work. In contrast, Go Myung's disillusionment deepens. He realizes that truth and heroism are often sacrificed for politics.